I'm Mitra. I'm a licensed tour guide in Italy. I'm also a virtuoso travel advisor. Today, I want to tell you all about one of our most iconic landmarks we have in Rome. The one and the only, the Pantheon. You ready? Let's do it. The Pantheon originates from the words Pantheos in Greek, all the gods. So it is a temple for the gods themselves. The whole area around the Pantheon was a temple area in antiquity, and it was the highest temple of them all, raised on a pedestal with multiple stairs going up. The Pantheon was constructed originally in 27 BC by Marcus Agrippa, consul of the time, and that is in fact the inscription you still see on the front. Marcus Agrippa, son of Lucius, consul for the third time, had this built. But of course, Rome is eternally placed on these volcanic plates that make Italy, so earthquakes and damages saw to a second rebuilding of the Pantheon, which is often the most credited one that you will see, 125 AD under Emperor Hadrian. But both Hadrian and another emperor prior to him called Domitian were involved in restoring the Pantheon. Neither, however, enjoyed the favor of the Roman people. So in order not to draw more ire on himself, Hadrian has left Agrippa's name on the very front. The Pantheon is a genius construction. It is a half dome built on cement. Based on building a mold and then pouring cement to it, the layers going from the thickness of the bottom around 5 meters, and then it gets thinner and thinner until it reaches the top, and it's going to be about half a meter, about 1.5 feet. 3 different layers of concrete, differentiating in density and in thickness. And then you're also going to use the displacement of pressure in the arches that you see around the brick walls. When you walk around the Pantheon, you see a lot of arches inside the brick. Some are single arch, some are double, and some are even triple. They're all meant to take off pressure, and they're also not meant to be visible. Originally, the entire Pantheon's walls were covered in marble. But when you look at all these arches, you have to imagine it almost like a champagne bottle. In the bottom of a champagne bottle, there's an arch. If there was no arch in the bottom of a champagne bottle, your bottle would explode. So the idea is, of course, to displace pressure as the dome leans in on itself, and then it culminates in an oculus, a 9 meter, 27 foot round circular hole, wide open, that also bounces the pressure back down. And this is still not all it is to it. In the ceiling, you're going to see squares cut out. We call it a coffered ceiling. And every square takes off the pressure 4 times, and there's 4 squares within each other's. So there's of course 16 more times in every square we take off the pressure again, all to send it back to the bottom. And as if this still wasn't enough, the Pantheon in the 1st century BC was originally built on a floating foundation, meaning that when and if there's an earthquake, the building can actually move back and forth without creating any damage to it. This is a type of technology that we completely forgot we even knew how to make, and thought that we invented it in the 20th century to use for buildings in earthquake-prone areas like Japan or in California. Turns out the Romans were one step ahead of us yet again. But then again, we're also talking about the same people who had faucets for hot and cold water in the 3rd century BC and self-flushing toilets inside the Colosseum. So just speaking of the Colosseum, to give you a contrast, the Colosseum was not built on a loose foundation, which means that she would get much more ravaged by earthquakes, and the Pantheon in return did not. The Pantheon, as I said earlier, is also missing all the marble on the outside walls. I promise you, if an ancient Roman would come today and see how we admire their brick buildings, they would be so upset. You see, the Romans were all about flair, pizzazz. The more color, the better. The more decoration, the better. My friends, it's like Vegas. It's go big or go home, baby, or it won't count. So you are missing the marble walls on the outside. You are missing the color of the columns. There should have been white mixed with a purple porphyry, and then golden leaves with brass leaves circling around. The triangle on the very top, which is full of holes, that should have been a gold relief with the 12 Olympic gods. As you walk in through the portico, you see white and gray, but where the gray is, there should have been colored marble. And you get a really good example of this when you walk in through the original bronze gates, hanging on their hinges, locking still the door with the original key, and you walk into the Pantheon and you will walk on a floor that will showcase a beautiful array of colors. Dark red, you see dark greens, you see buttery yellow up on the walls. It's called Antica Giallo, it's extinct, there's no more in the world. The purple marble on the ground, red porphyry, is also extinct. There is no more for you to find either, but don't worry, the Vatican has a hefty chunk in safekeeping in their museums for you to watch and admire. What you are missing though, even inside, are colors like dark blue and green. Lapis lazuli used to be on the floors, and malachite. This is semi-precious stones. So can you imagine? The Romans walked practically on jewelry. So what do you think their ceilings would look like? In the Pantheon's case, the ceiling was entirely covered with 24-karat gold mosaics. And can you absolutely imagine this effect? Through the hole in the center of the ceiling, when the sun would shine down as a column of light down on the highly polished marble. Prior to us having mirrors, we would polish dark marble to use as a reflective mirror. So you must compare this as if you walk into one of those super fancy hotels or shops where the marble is so polished you can almost see your own reflection in it. That would have been the Pantheon floor. So imagine the sun coming down, bouncing off the mirrored floor, up in the golden ceiling, and the effect would just have been luminous. And then people walking down on the street below, watching the golden rays shoot out from the doors, being elevated some 33 steps above. It would have been a sight for the gods themselves indeed. The Pantheon is saved by the most perhaps random series of events. As Christianity becomes legalized and starts taking over in Rome, eventually Christians also start destroying pagan temples in order to build new Christian ones. Someone, and we don't know who, took the key, locked the door to the Pantheon, and simply disappeared. The key is going to be hidden all the way to 608 AD until a key is given by the last Byzantine emperor, Phocas, to the Pope Boniface VIII, with the words, "Do whatever you want with it." And very lucky for us, the Pope turns the Pantheon into a Catholic church, St. Mary and the Martyrs, dedicated to all the martyrs known and unknown, because in old Christian times, if you were martyred for your faith, you automatically became a saint. A practice, of course, that we had to revise as we went on with legalizing Christianity, because it was in general just very bad form to kill people in order to make them saints. Now there's a whole list of rules and regulations of what it takes. But we buried saints in there. We also emptied out the catacombs. When they first opened to the general public in the 30s, the general public, as we may know, may have some loose concept of morality. They would snap off pieces of the skeletons of the bones of the human remains in the catacombs and take home as souvenirs. I know. And so instead, to bury them in consecrated ground, they were removed from the catacombs and put underneath the floors of the Pantheon. And it's very unique in the setting of a church. So the church is located in a building originally older than Christianity itself. You walk on floors originally intended for a building older than Christianity. So half of this building belongs to the Catholic Church and half to the Roman state. It is an active church. You can still attend Mass on Saturdays and Sundays, and the most spectacular event all year to see the Pantheon is for Pentecost. During Pentecost Mass, at the culmination of this Mass, the column of light from the oculus will come in a straight column on the ground. The fire department of Rome will be up on the ceiling, and they're going to throw bags and bags of red rose petals through the hole, and they will mix with the light in order to symbolize this fire of the Holy Spirit descending on the congregation below. And then the entire floor is going to be covered in dark red rose petals, and it is a true sight to behold, no matter what your religious background. I highly recommend, if you can be in Rome in the month of around June, that's usually when Pentecost falls, I highly recommend it. When you're in the Pantheon, you're also going to see, when you walk into the portico, that up in the ceiling, we now have exposed brick and rafters. All the way into the 1600s, however, it was all covered in bronze. We lose knowledge on how to make metal. From the medieval times onwards, we're simply recycling it from antiquity. And this is why, if you ever go to a museum and you are with a tour guide or a museum curator, and they're so very enthusiastic to show you something in metal, it's because we have less than 5% left of it. Everything else has been melted down into weapons or armor or recycled into other buildings. In this case, the recycling was for the construction of St. Peter's Basilica. Pope Urban VIII sends Bernini to the Pantheon with one command: take the bronze and make me a canopy that's going to stand inside the church. It will result in the amazing baldacchino by Bernini standing above the papal altar underneath the dome of St. Peter's Basilica. But this then in turn gave birth to a saying in Rome. People would say, quod non fecerant barbari, fecerant barberini. What the barbarians did not do to Rome, the Barberini Pope did. However, there was some leftover bronze. It was originally made into 80 cannonballs for the Castel Sant'Angelo down the road from the church. But upon the death of the first king of Italy, Victor Emmanuel II, it was decided that he was going to be buried in the Pantheon, and the cannonballs were melted down and made into his bronze tomb. So in a way, at least some of the bronze ended up back inside the Pantheon. Another prominent character buried in the Pantheon is another king of Italy, Urban I. He is buried with his queen, Queen Margherita of Savoia. Margherita di Savoia, you can thank for giving name to one of our most popular dishes in all of Italy, the pizza Margherita. She loved pizza, and upon the unification of Italy, Italy finally got one united flag as well. So her chef made her a pizza, named it after her, using the colors of the flag: red tomato, green basil, and white mozzarella. So when you eat a pizza Margherita, you're eating the national dish of Italy. You see, our food varies greatly from north to south, but the one singular dish that everyone could agree on, we all love pizza. So the pizza Margherita is the one pizza that you will find from north to south with no changes to it, no matter where you eat it. In the Pantheon, you're also going to find a tomb of the great artist Raphael. Raphael was an artist at the top of his game in Renaissance. He was an architect, he was a painter, but unfortunately, he dies a premature death at the age of 37. To add insult to injury, he died on his 37th birthday on April 6th in 1520, which also happened to be Good Friday that year. The people of Rome were launched into mourning for an entire year. When they processed his funeral procession through Rome, they remembered that Raphael had said that if he did not die in his home state Urbino, up north of Rome, but he died in Rome, his wish was to be buried in the Pantheon. Now mind you, this is 5 centuries before we have any kings or queens buried in here, or any remains from the catacombs put into consecrated ground. So the people of Rome simply decided that if their Raphael wanted the Pantheon, then by God, he would have the Pantheon. They just marched straight into the building, took out their chisels and their hammers, they hacked a hole in the wall, put his body on an ancient sarcophagus, and shoved him in right there. And later, we would get a prettier surrounding context with a glass wall covering it, some marble decoration, but you can still read a Latin inscription on the lid of the tomb of Raphael. And it says to you, paraphrased in English, that while Raphael was alive, Mother Nature feared that he would outdo her. Now that Raphael is dead, Mother Nature fears that she will die as well. Beautiful words for a beautiful artist. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to learn more, subscribe to this channel. And if you want to come and experience the Pantheon in all her glory, don't hesitate in reaching out to me. If you dream it, me as your travel advisor, I will deliver it. Ciao!